If you are an Emerald 4 Plus player and you're struggling with translating leads, this is going to be the video for you. Now, in this video, we're going to be looking at two differing Nefiri VODs. Now, the champ specifics aren't the topic of discussion, right? Whether it's through Nefiri, Akali, Silas, Victor, Syndra, Galio's lens, it doesn't actually matter. The underlying concepts are the things that matter in this particular video. This one is going to be really getting into the nitty gritty. I don't do enough videos like this. I wanted to really get specific. We're going to be touching on Atakhan macro, keeping up your farm, saying no to plays, potential season 15 narratives. This one's really going to be a little bit all over the place, but I promise you, if you can stay in this video and stay focused, you're going to be able to take one practical thing away from it. So moving into this VOD here to kind of lay the groundwork, I've done a pretty good job of keeping up my farm into a Victor. So I'm sitting around 90-ish farm by 10 minutes. And me and Wukong are doing a pretty good job. So I've just TP'd back onto the map here with my Eclipse. And this is kind of the situation. Top lane going relatively even, maybe a little bit behind in the 1v1. You've got bot lane struggling a little bit in the 2v2. And to be completely transparent, this is played at about like a high diamond, low master level. This is on one of my second accounts. So it's not overly high level of play, but it's not super low level of play. And I think it's still a great platform to talk about the underlying, mid-game fundamentals. So in my mind, right off the bat, here we go. We've got me and Wukong doing a very good job. I've hit my key spike, one of my key spikes on the Eclipse. My Wukong secondary win condition on Triforce with Ultimate, we're rock and rolling. So straight off the bat, I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, as long as I, keep an eye on what my jungler is doing and play with that guy, I'm gonna have a pretty good chance of winning majority of fights. So all I'm trying to do here is keep up my farm, not force anything, and really continue to play around and complement my jungler. So my jungler wants to be starting this dragon on spawn. Beautiful, I love it. So I'm just hovering around, putting my body in the area. Malphite gets kind of collapsed on, moving back to top side. It is what it is. Couldn't care less. The game's not really about Malphite here. So always back on this mid wave, looking to shove and move, and shove and hover. So what do I do here? I actually try to hover top, see what's going on, see if they are overextended. I actually think my initial thought process was I just wanted to get the Scry's Bloom, just see what Amumu was doing, the enemy jungle was doing. So I just popped it on the Krugs to see if Amumu was counter jungling. Didn't spot the Amumu, go back mid, get straight back on that mid wave. So now in the LoL states here, as you can see in the LoL states, I'm actually pinging the next neutral objective, being very vocal about what I want from my team next. So I ping Grubs coming up in 27 seconds, getting my team excited about neutral objectives. Now, again, guys, you can't control teammates. You can just influence your teammates, and you can influence your teammates via three mechanisms. That's body language, pings, and communication in terms of typing. I don't really type all that much. Body language and pings are typically the two main ones that you want to be engaging in. So now I know, in my LoL states that my Wukong has R, my Malphite has R, I'm ready to go with R, I've got my key spike. I'm feeling pretty confident that if the enemy want to fight this 4v4, I'm ready and rearing to go. Now, we move into the Grubs. Now, I want to freeze them right now. If you would actually use your LoL states properly, you would see the makings of a pincer. All right, what I mean by that is that the enemy have Urgot coming in from top side. They have Leona and Amumu and Victor moving in from the bot side. This is what we call an El Clasico pincer. Now, you're going to be in this sort of dynamic a lot in League of Legends, whether it be over a Dragon, a Rift Herald, a Baron, whatever. And the last thing you really want to do in League is you don't want to allow yourself to get herded like cattle and kind of pushed into this corner, because if you're trapped in this little kind of choke point and you get pincered, it gets ugly very quickly. So my default response in League of Legends, very, very simply, is if I ever see the makings of a pincer around any neutral objective fight, my default response is I either need to get the hell out of this situation because we don't have the ability to turn on one side, or you want to definitively turn on one side and what I call beat them to the punch, which means basically try to engage on them before they can engage onto you. So basically my thought process here is, okay, I don't really give a shit what side we engage on. I'm trying to get my team excited. I'm trying to ping on my way, go, 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 go. I'm looking for Malphite to R or something. They don't do it, so I ping my R, trying to get my team excited. The enemy are disengaging, so I'm just trying to engage on anyone, just get the hell out of here. So I force this guy back, luckily, which then allows our team to play the team fight on the other side. Urgot's way out of the fight, and by the time Urgot can get into the fight, he can't really do anything here, and we're able to kind of rinse them through here. So, obviously it wasn't pretty. It was a bit ugly, a bit sloppy around the edges, but we end up making it work. And at the end of the day, guys, something I tell a lot of people, especially on the way to the climb to Master 10, even Master Plus, your macro doesn't need to be overly sophisticated, but it needs to make some semblance of sense. And that's what I'm going to be trying to get across in this video. Underlying concepts that you can plug and play, right? In your games regardless. And again, doesn't need to be that was a great example. It was messy, right? I engaged on the ergot, he disengaged. It was messy, but it made some sense. There was some sort of underlying kind of thought process behind it. It wasn't random. Okay, now small little detail, and I do want to talk about this. After I go for the kill, I instantaneously try to shove the wave as much as I can before I reset, just to be hyper efficient. So I click this wave, the next wave is about to meet, so I click the next one, and I'm not in a rush to reset anyway, because Malphite can cover mid, Wukong hasn't reset yet, and there's no neutral objectives up right now. So I'm okay to stay around a little bit, get additional waves, and get back on the map. So get back on the map. Now in my lull states here, I'm noticing, okay, there's no neutral objectives for quite a long time. So in these moments where there's no neutral objectives up, coming for about, what, 2 minutes 30, 2 minutes 40, the most important thing is keeping up my farm, and second most important thing is valuing my life, especially if I'm looking to translate leads moving into mid-game. So I would say more often than not, at this stage of the game, the principle that I'm following, it's not about the play I make, it's about the plays that I don't make. It's about not throwing my lead and trying to overforce my hand right now. So you'll see me, later on, I say some notes and plays, and we'll really try and dissect that. So right now, this is a classic example. There's not really much I can do. Leon is kind of hovering in the area. Lulu's moving back to bot. So I can't pressure this Victor. I would love to start Wing on this guy's face. It's just simply not my time, right? Wukong is clearing camps. Lulu's doing her thing on bot side. I would love to W in this guy, but I know Leona is in the area. So I'm just trying to sweep whatever vision I can. I'm not even placing my control ward because I know that Leona is likely just going to destroy it. So I'm just saying no. Relaxing, conceding shove. You win, guys. Hands up. Not my time. Right? So I'm willing just to chill. Great example of not overforcing a play. Now in my lull states, I noticed that Leona's on the way bot, so now I know that it's just me and Victor. So I know if Victor comes anywhere near me, I'm not afraid to fight. So the moment this guy gets anywhere near me, I pop his ultimate, I pop my W, and I bait out his ultimate and I disengage. So notice that that's not luck. That's just me knowing my windows, knowing where the enemy is, and really just being patient with placing my vision. So I place my control ward now. I can, really get a bit of control, get the waves out, and start really, solidifying my lead here. So just clear some vision, hovering in between the time. I don't really want to make a play here at all. Why? I don't want to roam bot. Why would you not roam bot? People say, well, you have ultimate, Curtis. Why aren't you roaming bot? Well, my jungler's in base. I don't want to go bot right now. It's a low percentage play, and there's a wave meeting mid. The most important thing is my life and my farm. So I go back mid, I collect the wave ASAP, and now the beauty of this is that my jungler's getting back on the map, and I'm hovering the side of my jungler. My jungler is where I'm directing a lot of my attention, guys. And now I see shit happening, so I hover down, put my body in the area, and then now Wukong's in the area, and I'm happy and rearing to go. I'm taking all my reference points. I have my arm, playing off my eclipse, and now I'm able to kind of act as that cleanup crew and pick up a few kills here. Now, I don't run back mid. Why is that? Well, I got 6 grubs in my back pocket, and I don't want to be running in between the lanes 24/7, and now my 80 carry's dead. It's more efficient for me to just stay bot and just trade farm. And the beauty of that is I'm going to get towers faster than Victor's going to get towers, and my Wukong can actually just cover mid here, guys. So all I'm trying to do now is trying to make them react a little bit, and just leverage my grubs. And this is something I see a lot of people not do. In games where you have 4, 5, 6 grubs, you need to change your macro decision making. If you're ever in a base race or ever in a scenario where you can shove towers and even sometimes overstay, oftentimes it is worth it because you're able to leverage the fact that you're just shredding down these towers. So here I actively am aware of the fact that I have 6 grubs. And I end up snagging a little tower. And to be honest, I might have been able to go for another wave here. I just didn't have enough information to go for it. I didn't have flash, and I just wanted to get back on the map and have a little bit of adaptability for this next dragon coming up. So I spend my gold, and now I'm thinking of my lull sets again. My Wukong, where's my Wukong, and does my Wukong have R? Wukong doesn't have R, but the thought process here is that I feel like we're so strong. If they decide to team fight, I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to win it anyway, just because of us being, quite far ahead in terms of gold. At least me and Wukong, and I knew Malphite was hovering as well, and Malphite, full AP Malphite's going to do a little bit of work. So I shadow down, I realize they're giving it, and now what do? I maneuver straight back into the side lane. Now this is where the macro is going to get a little bit complicated. We've got Rift Herald as the next neutral objective, okay? But I have TP, and there's a bot wave that needs to be attended to. So what do? I think to myself, okay, rather than just forcing neutral objectives when ahead, my mindset is I want to make them react first. I want to make it awkward for them to get a team fight, because if I'm ahead, if I'm strong in the side lane, and I'm strong, it takes multiple members to deal with me, I want to make them react. I want to create a bit of a man advantage. I don't want to be sacrificing waves. I want to keep up my farm. So I decided to go bot. MF and Leona are now swapping lane assignments. The Victor got caught mid. Now, this is where some very, very interesting macro decisions were made. So if we freeze frame right here for a second, we actually want to go back here. My jungler has pinged on my way for this Rift Herald. Okay, but there's a wave in front of my face, so I don't want to TP right now. And on top of that, my Malphite is basing on mid with no ultimate. And at the end of the day, Rift Herald is nice to get, but I kind of view Rift Herald as a luxury. If I can get it, great. It will allow us to translate our leads, but I'm not going to go above and beyond for it. So my intuition in this moment was because we've used our Malphite ultimate. I haven't made Victor react. Victor's literally dead, so I can actually exert a shit ton of pressure on the sideline and start utilizing my six grubs for the tier 2 here. I didn't really want to TP. I actually just want to pressure the side right now. Now, this is where people get very overwhelmed when it comes to mid-game macro. There isn't just one solution, guys. The way I want to train your brain, and people who join the MLA, it's all about training people's brain to think in nuance. And the way you want to view it is that, imagine there is a scale. Okay, there's this invisible scale. And you have a rating, right? So 0 out of 10 would be the worst possible macro decision, or maybe a non-decision, lack thereof. And 10 would maybe represent the best quality macro decision, the best 10 out of 10 rank 1 player, like challenger, the best macro decision. Now, I would say in League of Legends, you don't need, to climb to Master and Grandmaster, you don't need to have 10 out of 10 macro. You don't even need to have 9 out of 10 macro. Your decisions just need to make sense. They need to have some sort of a foundation, right? So I would say that, if you're looking to climb to Master and Grandmaster, it needs to be in the top 3 best decisions, I would say. Right? Now, this is one of those decisions that I make. I choose to say no, even though Wukong is my secondary win condition, and even though theoretically I could have TP'd top, caught the top wave, maybe moved down with my Wukong and played the team fight with my R, I just wanted to stay bot. I wanted to stay bot to leverage that Victor was dead. I wanted to leverage my grubs, and I wanted to just keep up my farm here. And I just didn't value, personally, Rift Herald as a super valuable resource. I valued whacking away at this tier 2 and pressuring the side lane just a little bit more. Now, I would say that, if we're getting really technical, the best decision, or a better decision than mine, would be TPing top nice and early, catching that wave, ulting down and fighting with my Wukong. That would help defend my Wukong's bounty. It would be aligned with me playing with my secondary win condition. I would have enough time to collect this bot farm and make the play anyway, so I'm not theoretically missing anything. And it kind of just ticks every single box. But I didn't make it. I didn't see that decision in the heat of the moment. I saw Malphite dead. I didn't actually recognize that I could cover top. I didn't think I'd be able to get enough farm, and I wanted to take the guaranteed farm in the plate and the tower damage bot with the grubs, and I made that decision. Now, do I think my decision is the best? No. Does it have some sort of backing? Is there some sort of underlying thought process behind my decision? Does it still make sense? Yes. Okay. So yes, my macro wasn't perfect here, but it was okay. I would give it maybe a 7.5 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10, and that's that. So as a result, my Wukong does die. He does trade 1-for-1. We don't get the Rift Herald. I think they already got it before Wukong got there. But as a result, I denied a bunch of farm bot, and I end up nearly getting this tier 2. Now, the key important thing to understand is that every decision you make, guys, there are consequences to your macro. The consequence of my action, me making this decision, is that it's a very selfish decision. It's basically valuing me and what I want more than that Wukong. Now, that's okay as long as I understand that if I make a mistake later on in this game, if I grief my team and fuck up a team fight, that's on me. That's on me. If I made the decision to compliment my Wukong, then I would have a little bit more room for error, right? Because my Wukong probably would have survived, and that Wukong would probably be, more inclined to carry this game. But I made that mistake. Urgot got this giant bounty, and I've actually made the game a little bit harder than it needed to be. So my team die again. I need to probably go for a reset relatively soon, but I realize that because Civ is dead, no one's going to be covering mid, and I want to keep up my farm, and ideally I want to keep up that mid tier 1. So what do I do in the meantime? I recognize that there's no neutral objectives. I can afford to overstay a little bit. I don't have I have TP and I don't have gold for my Profane Hydra yet. So what do? I just collect mid and then get the recall, and that way we're really kind of min-maxing our farm. Now, it looks like here, Malphite's getting engaged on top, and I don't TP. Again, I don't TP to that play. Why do I not TP top? Well, I don't really give a shit about Malphite. I'm not playing around my Wukong secondary win condition. I've got waves that need to be attended to bot. It just doesn't really make sense. So instead, I do the El Clasico hover mid. When the waves are somewhat shoved out and they don't need to be attended to, the default response should always be hover mid, shadow mid, gauge the scenario, and then make a decision. Can I make an opportunistic pick mid, or do I go immediately back to side? Now, this is a win-win scenario because the great thing about this deployment is that I put my body in the area. I can play for control. I can cover mid farm if no one else is covering it. And if someone is covering it and we already have the control, I can instantly redeploy back into the side lane with having that additional adaptability. So as a result, because I pathed in this manner, I'm able to get a nice little opportunistic pick, potentially overkill with my R, but we get a beautiful little pick onto the MF. And instantaneously, what do? Straight back into the side lane. Even though my team is rifting mid, I've got farm that needs to be attended to. I don't want to be A-ramming as a Nefiri. I don't really offer jack shit in that scenario with no ultimate, being on vision. So I'm straight back into the side lane and really keeping up my farm. I ping danger, knowing that Victor's going to be in the area, and I just go back to farm. Now, again, a lot of you say, why aren't you TPing here? Your team is fighting, your Wukong's in the area, your Wincons are there. I've got to shove out waves. This is how I'm going to translate my leads. You translate leads by keeping up your farm. Now, same thing here. There's no neutral objectives. I don't want to TP to that play. I've still got 6 scrubs. I want this tier 2. And even if I was to TP here, right, and this is where it gets into the nuance of League of Legends, even if I was to TP and get that kill, so what? Big deal. What do I get from that kill? It does absolutely nothing for the game. So the decision that I made is like, I would rather let my team die in this moment. Wukong's already given his bounty anyway. I whack away and get a tier 2 on bot, and I get extremely fed, and I can make up the difference later on. So this ties into there's so many concepts here. It's overwhelming, but I'm going to take my time to dissect it. Number one, keeping up your farm and using farm as a mechanism for translating leads. Understanding the value of kills, right? The value of particular kills depends on the situation and the circumstance. And number three, it really depends on the game state, and it depends on what neutral objectives are in the area. So let's get into the details here. In this moment, there's no neutrals up, right? Rift Herald is down, Atakhan is not up, no dragons, no grubs, there's nothing like that, right? So if I were to TP in here and fight with my Wukong, whoop-de-doo. What does it do for the game? We can't turn this into anything. We're probably going to be getting mid tower soon anyway with our 6 scrubs and a Sivir. Malphite's already heading top. There's no farm that I can really get here, and I'm just going to be sharing XP mid. So it's higher pressure and more valuable here for me to punish the fact that this Victor is mid here and shove this one out and get the tier 2. Because if Victor groups here and plays for that team fight, no one's going to be able to respond to bot. Urgot's in the middle of the fight. No, Urgot can't respond to bot. Victor can't respond to bot. Now look, even if they trade 1 for 1, 2 for 2, I'm getting way more value than I would be if I were to attend that fight. So this is one of those scenarios where I'm simply okay with my team dying. It's okay to say no. It's okay to sometimes make a sacrifice. Just because you're the Fed member, you don't need to be there for every single fight. And this is a concept that is very difficult for people to wrap their head around. But again, the part of the contract, if you're going to do this, is that you better perform in those skirmishes when the time comes. Because if I get to skirmishes and I can't execute my champion, then what's the point, right? I get all these resources on myself. If I don't execute, this game's on me. So now, as a result, 4 of my team members die. I do get the TP. I do get the tier 2, I get the Krugs. But now the positive is that I'm back up. I'm maximally strong for this Atakhan coming up in 37 seconds. Now, if I'm going to get a bit nitpicky and I were to review this myself, I literally did review this myself, I would have liked to see me ping back more. I would have liked to get my team excited about disengaging. So the moment the moment this Wukong pinged on my way, what I should have done is I should have been danger, danger, danger. I really would prefer if a fight didn't happen in this scenario. Now, whether or not they listen to me, that's a completely different ballgame. But again, you don't control your teammates in solo queue. You influence your team in solo queue. And it's all about timely pings and good quality pings. But I didn't ping jack shit, so that's on me. It is what it is. So now I get back on the map. Now we're going to be talking about Atakhan macro. Now, if you're the enemy right now, right, you're not going to be starting Atakhan on spawn, right? They're not strong enough to do so. But we don't really want to start Atakhan on spawn because we're not strong enough to do so. No one really wants to be starting Atakhan on spawn. My hack when it comes to mid-game macro with Atakhan is that I never really want to be that person to start it. I always want to be the one poking off the enemy and making him sweat. I still have the advantage of my TP, and I'm very, very strong. So what do? I cover mid, because Sivir can't get here in time, so I'm just covering a little bit of farm. And I make the decision here in a moment, after this wave, to look bot. Now, I end up getting a bit of a chunk in the meantime, because this guy was split from his team, and I knew that this guy was too far away from Leona, so I get a beautiful chunk. Sivir goes in, gets a nice little kill. But because I'm so fed here, I'm able to play this fight. I can buy time for my Wukong coming in. I've got my ultimate. I've got 2.5 items. I'm way, way, way stronger than anyone else in the game. I've got my flash. And as a result, look at this time. Look at this space I'm able to create. Now, because I've done all the work and I've put myself in a good position, now when the time arrives, when the fight actually occurs, as long as I play it well, kind of get in, get out, try to flash, get out of the Victor R, re-engage with my W, keep up my Conqueror stacks, go for those high value Q1, Q2s to stay healthy. And as a result, we're able to get this ace in mid lane out of nowhere. But the reality is not out of nowhere. I've basically invested in myself for so long that when the opportunity presents itself, I'm going to be able to guarantee the one fight. I mean, if you look at the itemization difference between me and Victor, even though Victor's been at more fights, I think he's at like 1.5 items. I'm at 2.5 items, and I'm 2 levels up. I'm like, what's that? Like 50 CS up on this guy. That's because he's been grouping 24/7, and I've been shoving and moving, and I've been willing to let my teammates die. So now, when the time comes, when I'm at that fight, as long as I execute these fights correctly, now I can, kind of just take over the game. So tough pill to swallow. If I were to fail this, let's say I were to mis-execute this mechanically and I die and I give my bounty, hands up, I deserve to lose the game. That's on me. I don't deserve to win the game. I've had all the resources. I can't afford to fuck up, right? So anyway, after this play, look at what I do, guys. I don't run to Atakhan. Why would we start Atakhan? We just use all of our ultimates and it will just completely ruin our tempo. So it's not worth it. So what do? I go instantaneously to bot lane. Why do I go to bot? Well, I've still got my TP. Right? The enemy all dead. I can actually use this time to actually potentially just get as much farm as I possibly can and then base TP. And actually what I do here is I ping back on Atakhan and I spam ping on the dragon here. Why? Because the Atakhan's is not really that important. And we can probably get the dragon all reset and still defend the Atakhan if need be anyway, because it's so hard to get Atakhan. So notice how I'm really conservative when it comes to Atakhan. I'm all about just being rather be late, later than earlier, because it's a very difficult objective to start here. So shove it all the way out again, utilizing those kind of miniature lull states or those those little, I kind of call these transition periods, right? These are transition periods where I'm not just mindlessly ARAMing. I didn't go mid and get the tower with them. I use this as an opportunity to shove out and make someone react later on. Now look at this. In this moment, Victor has to react to the wave all the way at the tier 3. Just something worth noting. Okay, same thing. Atakhan is up. I don't really want to start it. So I'm just putting my body in the area. And what do I do? Whenever in doubt about where to deploy, I always deploy around mid. And I've already made Victor react, so I know I've got a bit of a man advantage. So I'm just going to deploy around mid, put my body in the area, sweep, and just see what's going on. Notice how I don't engage here, guys. Why? Well, my Wukong's not in position, right? My team is not in position. My Wukong's in base. So I realize that I can't make anything happen. I know the enemy can't really start it, and if they do start it, I can TP anyway. So what do? I grab blue buff, and I maneuver my way onto bot side. Now, this is a scenario where there are many, many macro options, okay? So because our team actually has really, really good team fight and we actually have good engage, and the enemy are actually very susceptible to getting engaged, or they have an MF and a Victor, I can theoretically stay grouped with my team and just ARAM and fight, and we would probably win. As long as we don't start the Atakhan, we just keep mid-wave shoved in, play for control. If they step out of position, we can just send it and go. That would be a completely viable, and to be honest, maybe even optimal macro decision. But my thought process was, okay, well, if I'm in the enemy's position right now, no one wants to be reacting bot. Urgot's already on top. Victor can't respond to me. So if I were to go bot right now and I ping my team back, they're going to be in a really stressful position right now. So what I try to do is I try to go on bot. I'm keeping my camera panned, assessing the scenario, seeing what's going on. Ideally, my communication is pretty dog shit here, to be honest. Looking at it again, this is really disgraceful communication. What I should have been doing is being danger, danger, danger on my way bot, trying to make the enemy forced to start a really shitty, Atakhan or something, and then I can go for a TP later on. But I don't ping anything, and that's the reality. I was delusional with my pings, and the moment I see the play break out, I TP. And look, we suffer the consequences, right? My Wukong tries to go in. I'm a little bit late. Now I need to play the team fight basically flawless. And to be honest, it's not really hard for me to team fight as a very fed Nefuri. I put all the resources on myself, and as a result, they can't deal with me. I'm a 2.5 item, nearly 3 item Nefuri by 22 minutes, so they can't really deal with me here. Now I'm able to kind of I think I get a quadra kill here. And now what do? I go straight back into side, shove it out, reset, and get my items. So that is another one of those examples, guys, where there are many macro decisions. And I'll be honest, I think my macro wasn't, specifically my decision wasn't the most optimal. I wouldn't rate this a 10 out of 10 decision. I would rate my decision maybe an 8 out of 10, maybe even a 7 out of 10. Again, it makes sense. I was gathering a lot of information. If I had pinged, maybe it would be an 8 out of 10, maybe, or a 9 out of 10, but I didn't communicate jack shit. So I actually didn't get a lot of value from my TP here. And in hindsight, the easier to execute play would just be ARAM and play for the team fight here because we're more than strong enough. So as you can see, my macro wasn't terrible. It just wasn't amazing. And this is a great example of, even me, I'm a bloody full-time league coach. I don't play the macro game flawlessly. Welcome to League of Legends. It's a fast-paced game. Shit's always going on and there's always room for improvement. But I will say, because I've really given myself all the resources, I can kind of make up I can make up for my suboptimal macro with just good quality skirmishing and team fighting. And again, I'm reaping the rewards of just being an incredibly fed Neferi. So again, the key there, in between the waves, in between the fights, those transition periods, I farm up a storm, get back on the map, and same thing. So what do? Whenever in doubt, redeploy around mid. So I redeploy around mid, put my body in the area. The bot lane's already shoved out, so there's no point in me going into the side lane. So I'm just going to, just chill in the area, see what's going on. My Wukong has R, my Malphite has R, I'm ready to go. Wukong goes a little bit deep, gets a bit of a chunk. I see they're kind of split here, so I pop my arm. Malphite has R. I'm ready, ruined to go. We have all the reference points ticked. We try to get a bit of a wombo. Now, it ends up kind of working. Urgot ends up getting a really, really good ultimate. We end up losing this fight. I was actually honestly in-game a little bit shocked here. I was actually very, very surprised. It was like a 2 for 3. I thought we would straight up ace them. In hindsight, what the problem was is that I needed to play slower. I needed to stay away from the Urgot there and kind of kite back with my Sivir and Lulu a little bit more and kind of play the fight in and out. I was just a little bit cocky thinking we were so far ahead. So a bit of a blunder from me. But again, I'm suffering the consequences. I just gave another 700 gold bounty. So I've given essentially, even though I've died once, in my eyes, I've given 2 700 gold bounties. One was when I baited I didn't compliment my Wukong on the Rift Herald, and the second one was in this team fight. So now I'm in a scenario where the game is still very much about being Wukong, right? I mean, my Sivir's not in the greatest position. My Malphite's actually quite far behind Urgot, and I actually can't even deal with Urgot in the side lane. So let's actually talk about here, what do we do? My mindset is still very much redeploy mid, and the reason I'm redeploying mid is because the wave's in Narnia. Now, my team here, look at this. My team was actually pinging on the Atakhan. Look what I do here, guys. I just ping back, and I literally type in chat, give. I have chat muted, so I don't know what they're saying, but I just type in chat, give, and ping back. The reason why is because it's a tempo sync for them. Yeah, they get the Atakhan. We shouldn't be worrying too much. Let's just try and shove our waves, get jungle camps, and relax. Now, whenever in doubt, hover around mid, put my body in the area, have that adaptability. Now, I knew right now we're going to be up in tempo a little bit because I did overstay for the Atakhan. So I'm just trying to look for a bit of a man advantage pick here, just scouting, waiting for my jungler to get in the area here. I see them in the area. I'm thinking, oh, maybe we can look for a bit of an opportunistic pick. And you'll see here a moment where there's some micro macro learnings here. So we're going to get into the details here. So I'll just play it out once and then we can break it down. So I panic, I flash out. Wukong goes in to try and, help me out, play around the MFR quite nicely. And now I'm just trying to disengage, right? Our team is kind of dead. Sivir is dead. Wukong's getting annihilated. I'm trying to flash, just trying to drag them around the map a little bit, making it hard for them to chase me and go back to the side. So, okay, so again, my macro wasn't perfect. My thought process was I was trying to, at least my intention was to punish their Atakhan tempo and trying to look for a bit of a man advantage pick. In the process, though, I kind of bait my team in. I get stunned by a Mumu. He ulties me. Wukong compensates. I was actually completely fine to E out, but he doesn't know that. And what I should have done in hindsight is never E out in the first place and actually just fight with my Wukong right now. I can just pop my R, kill this Mumu very, very, very easily and play the fight. So I would actually argue that this is, yes, sure, I could have simplified this from a macro perspective and just literally given this next dragon, waited for my Malphite to get into a better position, and just played for Baron control. That probably would have been the better macro decision. Alternatively, though, I could have played this fight way better mechanically. So this is a great example of how both the micro and the macro are relevant. And one of my biggest pieces of advice, guys, if you are an Emerald 4 Plus player watching, is that you need to employ the micro-macro framework, right? You always start with the micro. How could I have played it better from an ability usage, target selection, positioning perspective? Then you zoom out and you ask yourself, well, why am I even here? Does this fight really make sense? Am I ticking my reference points? So again, when I first looked at this, I thought to myself, I looked at the micro, I'm like, why did I E out? I could have just killed that guy, popped my arm, fought with my Wukong, and we probably would have won the fight. But then when I look at it from a macro perspective, I asked myself, well, my Malphite's not here. He has Ignite. He doesn't have TP. They all have the GA anyway from the Atakhan. I think I really overcomplicated. I overemphasized the tempo sync of the Atakhan, and as a result, it wasn't the greatest macro decision. So it wasn't the worst, it wasn't the greatest. So there's learning from both. There's learning from my micro and there's learning from my macro perspective. So end up giving the dragon, and so I know that we can't contest the dragon. My Wukong is dead. My Malphite's in Narnia. So what do? I trade it off and TP top, and then use that opportunity to shove out top, make them respond to a top wave, and create another shove and move opportunity here. All I'm trying to do is drag them around the map. Now I'm putting my body in the area. I have my ultimate. My Wukong's coming up soon. Wukong nearly has ultimate as well. So I'm just trying to put my body in the area. And I nearly throw the game in. To be honest, quite honestly, I actually deserve to lose now after this. I made too many errors. So what ends up happening here, I was just trying to get a bit of a chunk, dance around the edges, thinking that someone was going to react to top wave. I end up missing my Q, and they end up locking me up and killing me here. So this was actually a massive, massive, massive mistake. And I remember thinking in the game, fuck, I might have lost the game for my team here. Again, I was trying to really min-max my output and just trying to not deny vision. To be honest, I was just greedy. I wanted her to get a bit closer, punish the fact that I was level 16 into level 12. I just wasn't anticipating the Urgot, and I didn't have flash, so I needed to be way more careful with, especially with all this kind of lockdown. Now, the only positive of this is that I did burn the Urgot R. So my team, even though, I'm dead, they have a Wukong, they have a Sivir, they have a Lulu, it's really hard for them to do the Baron inside of a pit with a fed Wukong. So my team's able to trade some kills, steal the Baron, not amazing, but not terrible. Now, off the same deployment here, guys, what do? I noticed that Sivir's already collected mid-wave, so I actually decided to deploy side this time. And because the wave's a lot deeper, it needs to be responded to. And my mindset still, again, try to make someone react and shove and move. So I shove the side wave, try to make someone react. I make Urgot react. Now look at this lol state usage, guys. I see Victor top, I see Urgot bot, and I see MF mid. So I'm thinking, wait, Urgot can't be here. Victor's not here. So I ping on my way, and the closest target, I R and I W and I go. No hesitation. And yes, it's on a support, and yes, they have TP, but because we have such good engage and pick, we're able to get a really nice play here. Wukong's able to now, come by. I'm able to get a really great engage onto the Victor. And just like that, we've just turned the game on its head. We're able to play the team fight here. Wukong's got excellent positioning. Sivir's got excellent positioning. They're all split. They come in one by one, and then we end up acing them and winning the game here. So what I like about this VOD is that it wasn't the craziest macro, right? There was some mistakes. I didn't play it perfectly, but I understood why I made those errors. I made those decisions with intention. I can break them down in hindsight because I made them very, very clearly. I knew exactly why I made the decisions like I did. And I was able to, maneuver a lot of these uncomfortable situations with good quality, fighting, but also just because I had not compensated for many people. I had put a lot of resources into myself, and I got myself into a position to carry through keeping up my side lane farm. So this is a game where, yes, I didn't play it perfectly, but I was able to kind of take control through decent quality macro. Now, in the second VOD, what I want to emphasize is maybe the psychology behind saying no, why it's such a difficult skill for people to develop, but also some of the narratives behind it, and I guess some advice to develop this skill. And I'm going to go through just a few quick examples here, right? So I'll give you one clear example here, whereby what happens is I shadow in between the waves. My bot lane gets engaged upon here in a second by the opposing jungler. And I get halfway and I realize, you know what? My AD carry is already dead. I can't compensate, even though my jungler's in the area. We're at a man disadvantage. There's no point overforcing it. So I just turn on the Azir and just say no. And my jungler ends up getting chased down. And you'll see I pan my camera. I can't help. The play's over, right? And look, I would say this decision is made up of simultaneously variables that you've gathered in the past, but also an understanding of what your role is, and also the gathering of information in the present. So let's expand on this a little bit, right? I have made a video a while ago that I got memed on by the community, kind of talking about how every game is a story. And basically the point that I was trying to get across in that video was this whole idea that every game is kind of like events kind of compile and compound throughout the game. And things can change very quickly. So you might have an idea that you've got a particular member being a win condition, or maybe a particular side lane doing well, but things can change, right? Just like when you're reading a novel or something, events can change, and things can completely do a 180, right? And everything compounds on each other, right? Every event, everything happens for a reason. So in this moment, I knew to myself that yes, my bot lane is strong, and I definitely want to be hovering around mid to bot. But my Diana is also strong, and she's out farming this Pantheon massively. So a big part of my kind of I guess my reference points in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I don't need to force because Diana's power farming and doing a great job. I'm also not at Eclipse, so I don't really want to force anything pre-Eclipse on a Nefiri. And yes, my bot lane is doing great, but they're not doing so good that I need to like risk any of my own lead, right? I'm in a position where we're going to win the game pretty easily as long as I don't do anything dumb, right? So when this scenario happens and Pantheon ults bot, yes, I'm looking at the key variables. You know, how's the fight looking? Are they going to be able to disengage? Does it look like an okay fight? Yes, I am gathering all that information, but my ability to say no also comes from the fact that I know what else the comp has to offer. I know what else I can do this game. I know what else my Diana can do this game. Like I've already got an idea in the back of my mind, all of the things that we can do later on in the game because of the information that I've gathered. So it's almost as if this ability to say no and not compensate also is a byproduct of understanding what to say yes to. It is a culmination of understanding win conditions. It's a culmination of understanding your own champ's reference points, but also having the confidence and faith in your ability to execute upon that. The two biggest narratives I see or mental blocks that people struggle with when it comes to saying no is number one, they simply feel like if the enemy were to get ahead, or if their team were to be, or their teammates were to get behind, that the enemy is just going to play like SKT or T1 in the world final and translate the lead perfectly. Like we automatically assume that the enemy is faker and that our team is like the worst player in the world. We think that maybe because we've had these painful experiences in the past that our Draven's going to go AFK now. This Pantheon is literally going to play like the best game of his life. The enemy are not going to make any mistakes, blah, 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 blah. But when you start to vocalize this stuff, guys, you start to realize how bullshit this narrative is, right? The enemy aren't going to play the game perfectly. They're going to make plenty of mistakes. Chances are Draven's not going to AFK after one play, and a lot of you guys in the comments are already getting ready. But Curtis, my games, my AD carry AFK'd after one mistake. I'm not sitting here saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it's unlikely. It's low probability that your Draven is going to AFK after one game, right? After one mistake, sorry. Although, yes, it can happen. It might happen 1 in every 10 games or 1 in every 20 games, but you can't be banking on the fact that this is that 1 in every 20 games. You can't go through your league journey like that. So I would say this is the first narrative. The second narrative is, or belief or mental block, is that I feel like a lot of people feel forced to make shit happen and say yes to all these plays because they don't have faith in their mid-game macro. They don't feel like they have the mid-game macro capacity to be able to make up the difference in the mid-game. So if you look at my past mid-game, the past vote that we just looked at, yes, there's all these things like saying no to letting my team die and keeping on my side lane farm, but that come from I guess, a sense of confidence and belief in my ability to do my job moving into the mid-game. But the toxic thing in League, guys, is that if you never give yourself a chance to actually execute upon that stuff in the mid-game, how are you going to learn it? Like, that means you're just constantly going to be playing the game into the mid-game from behind, and that's not going to feel good. You don't know how to play mid-game properly until you make these high percentage decisions and actually keep up your farm. There's no way around it. So you have to accept that, yes, you are sometimes going to, you are going to be that one fed member and you are going to have to play fights very well. You are going to have to say no, whatever. And you are going to sometimes single-handedly lose the game for your team. And this is an example of that. I'm going to get to that in a second. So I say no to a bunch of these plays, right? I couldn't help my team here. It is what it is. Later on in the game, I TP to try and help my bot lane. The enemy counter TP. We couldn't make anything happen and my team would have died and I had to just simply disengage. So that was another play I had to say no to and just accept reality. And the way the game panned out, I couldn't really do a lot just because I had to ping back on this pike roam because I needed to be here for grubs. Just the way the game panned out, I wasn't able to kind of complement my team all that much. And that's just because these decisions were just high percentage and they were exactly what the situation called for. Later on in the game, as we fast forward here, I finally found an opportunity to help my team. But I got all the resources. I killed the Pantheon. So this game was all about me and my Diana. So now the agreement, the contract that I've signed, right, because I haven't, sacrificed any resources, I farm relatively well, I've got to my key spikes. It's now on me to do my job moving into the mid game well and play my fights well. So as we fast forward this game, I get to my eclipse, I compliment my team, and we get ourselves into this sort of scenario where the stars are aligned, right? I'm playing with my Diana, which is my reference point number 1. I'm playing off my key spike, reference point number 2. I have my flash, I have my R, I'm hovering mid to bot, all thumbs up, systems go, it's go time. The reality though, what happens here, I'll play this out, is that I try to defend my Diana. Me and Diana take this play. I kind of kite back. We bait out some cooldowns. And the enemy play well. They double flash, and then I go on the wrong target. I should have flashed back onto the Azir and killed the Azir or disengaged with the Diana. Now, what happened is that my team, I put all the resources in myself. I made high percentage decisions. I played as if I'm going to be the carry, but I fucked up. I fucked up the skirmish. Right? So the reality is that now the game is in ultra hard mode. And to be honest, I kind of deserve to lose. I understand why I'm going to lose this game. And I end up losing this game off this play. Now, in an alternate reality where my skirmishing is a little bit better, I flash over that wall and I kill the Azir and we win this fight, we probably win the game. Right? That's the way the cookie crumbles. But the great thing about this, guys, is that I played with conviction. I didn't make anyone else's decision. I didn't get influenced by anyone else's decisions. I didn't get influenced by anyone else's emotional state. I wasn't influenced by my own emotional state. I was expressing my best self, making the best quality decision that I could make in that moment, playing at my limit, and whatever happens, happens. The great thing about this, because again, I'm playing with intention, I'm not influenced, I don't feel pressured to make any bullshit plays, I'm not taking low percentage plays, I'm making decisions that I perceive are best, I'm using my lull states. The great thing about that is that if it doesn't work and I fuck up and I make a mistake, I can own it boldly. I can review it with conviction. And this is the kicker, I get beautiful learning because I know exactly what I was thinking about. And a lot of people aren't willing to have this painful experience. That's why they plateau. And you see this, and I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here. This is why that there's that low master, 0 LP to 100 LP master players or high diamond players, that they have the ego out the wazoo, right? They're mentally like they feel as though they're the next coming of Jesus, the next coming of Faker, but they can't get into the details and take accountability because their ego is preventing them from actually taking max accountability. They want it when this moment comes, they're going to blame that. You know what would happen? For the average, low master player that has this massive ego, you know what they're going to do? They're going to blame their pike, right? If I look at this, they would look at this and be like, oh yeah, my pike could have got here sooner. Instead of like trying to move on to the Pinsol onto the Tristana, why did pike not get hit? Why did Nami get hit faster than the pike? Right? That's just cope, right? I would have died regardless. I wouldn't have killed the Pantheon probably anyway. The way I played it was objectively suboptimal. Right? I can't focus on that. That's out of my control. What's in my control? I can play this fight differently. I can play that fight better. That's what's in my control. That is the difference maker. I did everything else. My macro for the most part was really good. I said no, I didn't compensate. I just failed to execute. I failed to be the carry when it counted. And so hopefully in this video, yes, there is some macro tips. There's some mindset tips. There's, hopefully tried to talk about the significance of saying no to low percentage plays, really utilizing those lull states, and just fail with conviction, guys. Fail boldly. Shit's going to happen. And, the person that can fail boldly and learn from the mistakes, they're the people that are going to push through those plateau points. So, bit of an interesting video. Hopefully this gives you a little bit to think about. If you have any other questions about any of these topics, you know where to find me. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you for another video.